My name is Greg Hogeboom. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge for NOAA, Office of Law Enforcement, which is, our office is in Niceville, but we cover from the Alabama-Mississippi line down to Fort Myers, Florida. So I've got an office full of agents and a uniform officer in Niceville and another office full down in St. Petersburg, Florida. I've been doing this for about 26 years. The last 17 or so I've been here in Okaloosa County in the Panhandle. So,
Go louder, please.
okay, I'm sorry.
It's kind of hard to hear back here.
Okay. Anyway, the Marine Mammal Protection Act, just as really a basic background, was passed in 1972, and Congress passed it in order to, for the express purpose of protecting dolphins, whales, and other marine mammals from hunting, harassing, killing activity by Americans. Basically anywhere in the world, as long as they're on an American boat or American water, American soil. It's interesting, that PSA that you guys just watched, that was partially funded by a charter boat captain out of Orange Beach, Alabama, that was shooting at dolphins with his pistol on a charter trip, and the passengers got a picture of it and got a little upset, so he was prosecuted for that. The Marine Mammal Protection Act makes it illegal for any person, vessel, or conveyance, which could be a guy in a barrel with a paddle, to take any marine mammal. The definition of take is important because it means to harass, hunt, capture, collect, kill, or attempt to do any of those things. So it gets even a little more refined as what the definition of take is. Because along with that, it means you can't collect the dead animals, take them home, boil off the meat off the skull, even though it's dead, you found it on the beach. You can't do that. You can't corral, restrain any animal at all in a net, and you can't tag one unless you have an authorized permit from National Marine Fisheries Service. And this is probably where it kind of gets a little bit more in you guys' wheelhouse here, because the negligent or intentional operation of an aircraft or a vessel, which includes watercraft, your jet skis, doing any of those negligent acts which result in disturbing an animal or feeding an animal is illegal. And there's two types of harassment. There's level A harassment, which is the possibility to injure an animal, like the charter boat captain that shot at the dolphin. That's level A harassment. So you have the possibility to hit it, kill it, end its life. And then there's level B, which is probably what is more likely to be seen in an area like this, or Zanzibar for that matter. But that is the act of pursuit, annoyance, torment, and the potential to do those things to disturb an animal. So you can see how broad this law is. I mean, just the potential to do that. So you have to be very mindful of what you're doing when you're running your either out independently or operating as a business. As you read further down in the red, it says, but it does not have the potential to injure the animal. So you can, if you interrupt its feeding, or if you feed it, or if you interrupt its travels, migration, sheltering, trying to keep away from jet skis or boats or whatever, then that's a level B harassment. And we get a lot of complaints. I got 2 complaints yesterday alone. One from down in St. Pete, where a boat ran over, a guide boat ran over a dolphin in front of a researcher, and another one where they were feeding the dolphins. And then, of course, we had the two strikes that were in Pensacola the other day also, which resulted in fatalities. So we get YouTube, it's amazing, we get YouTube videos that are sent to us from this area, from St. Pete, from all over, to say, look at that guy, he's on a jet ski, he's a tour guide operator, I filmed this, and can you follow up on it? So we follow up on every as it says there, HI or human interaction incident that comes to our attention. You know, we're bound by law to follow up on these, so we do. We currently have a number of open cases right now that are way beyond what you guys are involved with ever. But they involve poisoning, they involve shooting, they involve stabbings of animals. And a lot of these, I think, probably, if you talk to some of the biologists, are going to say these animals died because of the result of the behavior of learning to be fed and being fed over the years. They go to places that they're not wanted, and people don't want to see them there. You know, they're taking fish off the hooks. They're involved in you know, their fishing activities or shrimping activities, and just don't want any part of them there. That's beggar. And those, as you can see, that's a fish getting dropped in his mouth. And we had a researcher, or I shouldn't say we had, there was a researcher out there that day that was actually taking pictures after they told these people to, you know, what you're doing you shouldn't be doing. And so you can see that the guy he's got nothing in his hands, but he's petting the animal. And if you think that's normal behavior, then I think if you talk to any biologists, they're going to say that is not normal behavior. That is disturbing behavior, disturbing the animal, and harassment. And then there's another, like Dennis said, dumping the water dumping an empty cooler of water into the water, and there's beggar right there, heading right for it. So, you know, you saw the definition.
So it's 500 if you get caught.
This actually, these are recreational boaters. This is not a commercial boater. These were actually, I hate to use the phrase, German tourists, and they were doing something they shouldn't have been doing. I have 70 pictures probably of this event, so it went on for quite a while. But that's what they found in beggar's stomach. Some of what was found in the animal itself.
I've seen dolphins out there with hooks in their mouths, stretched down their bellies and leaders, and I've seen all that out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's not uncommon.
No, and you know they like the food. Free food.
Yeah, SAR's got a gotcha plug in it right now.
This is maybe a little hard to see, but that's a minnow that came out of a Panama City tour operator's bathing suit pocket. And there was an undercover agent and an undercover state officer on board that boat, and they watched him pull it out, drop it, and go right to the dolphin's mouth. And so that was a ended up being a $4,000 paid Nova for that guy right there.
What is a Nova?
A Nova is called, it's a notice of violation and assessment. It's a fine.
Okay.
And that's what he ended up settling for. So he paid that. That event actually happened a couple of years ago, but was settled in court, or settled out of court last summer. This happened last summer. That's a screwdriver.
Oh,
That's a screwdriver strap?
That's a screwdriver inside a bottlenose dolphin's head.
around here?
That's an Orange Beach. Why you would want to, but that has to be a result of being habituated to people and food. Because otherwise, how would you get close enough to a wild dolphin to put a screwdriver in their head?
Did you guys get it out?
It died. The animal died. That's it the next day.
That wasn't fun.
That was about a 4-year-old juvenile male that perfectly healthy, but 4 years old, and probably spent its life begging food from boats, and it ticked somebody off. Somebody did not want that animal by the boat for whatever reason. That was last week, or a couple weeks ago actually. That's a 2 to 7 day old juvenile, a neonate, newly born bottlenose that was hit by a boat in Pensacola Bay. That was one of 2 that happened within a couple days. That's the cat. That's the. You probably can't see it from here, or from where you're sitting, there's a dolphin, and there's a plume of water right there from the round hitting the water. At the precise moment, this guy that was charter fishing, a passenger on board the boat, said, "Oh, cool, there's a dolphin." Took the picture. Deckhand on that boat asked everybody on board the trip on the way out if any of them were tree huggers. There's a bunch of good old boys from Alabama. So any of you guys tree huggers? And none of them, they all said, "No, we're not tree huggers." And he said, "Well, sometimes we shoot dolphins." And they actually did that day.
They actually shot that one?
They didn't hit it, as far as we know. But you don't have to hit it, and you don't have to have a body.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
a good thing they did.
Yeah, yeah. But as far as the law goes, it's a take because it's an attempt to do it. This one right here is a dolphin that washed up in Orange Beach in February. It's a 515-pound male dolphin, very healthy, other than the fact that it had a filleted skeleton of a sheep's head in his throat. And it choked to death when the bones went down his throat. It got caught. And someone likely had fed that animal that fish, boat side. And then, the fillets, I guess, in nature, I've never run into a filleted carcass, typically. This is a Panama City incident that happened back here a few years ago. And the lady that I interviewed drew me this diagram of where she was standing and where her friend was standing on board the boat, and the captain's up in the bridge, and the dolphin swam by, and he yelled, "Cover your ears!" And he fired his .38 down into the water at the dolphin and missed it by inches, according to her. And that was the third incident that happened that day. And I don't want to embarrass him either. You can find it. But what he told me was, basically, he goes, "Man, I love dolphins. But I'm trying to make a living, and these things were meeting me at my fishing spots. They know the sound of the screws of my boat. They show up when they hear me. They vector to where I'm going, and they're there waiting for me." And he goes, I have a picture from this case of the guy, of one of the anglers, with his rod bent over double, with the dolphin has got the red snapper in its mouth, and there's no turning it. But they're so habituated to being fed that they're gonna do whatever they need to do.
So let's say eventually, if everybody completely stops feeding dolphins, will they eventually gain their primal instincts back to hunt and gather their own food, or will they die off from not having the food fed to them?
Well, I think that's probably a better question for the biologist, but I'm assuming that when a dolphin gets weaned off of food from a man, it's going to pick up its own. It's going to pick up its own menu somewhere along the way.